So today we will be comparing a few certain plant adaptations, which are kind of special parts of a plant that help it survive in its habitat. Our first comparison will be some differences in the adaptations between the cactus and the water lily. The cactus gets its food through its spines, while the water lily, on the other hand, will get its water from all around it because it lives on water. It will take it through its small roots. Okay, the cactus will get its sunlight by its rough green, like a darkish green hide it has, which will kind of absorb the sun. And the water lily gets a lot more sunlight too because it reflects off the water, so it can get more, but basically it does it the same way as the cactus. So this last food. The cactus gets its food from the nutrients in the soil and the CO2 in the air. It gets some of the nutrients in the soil through its roots and the CO2 from everywhere. The water lily gets CO2 a lot, but since it doesn't live in soil with other nutrients, it doesn't really get it from there. It just gets enough CO2. Here's some pictures. Cacti. Sorry, and a water lily. Okay, part 2. Our second comparison will be grass and Venus flytraps. Grass, a Venus flytrap. Okay, the grass and the Venus flytrap both get water from when it rains and when people water it. It absorbs it, it goes into the soil, and then they absorb it through its roots. The grass gets its sunlight from the sun, and as does the Venus flytrap, and so they kind of absorb the sunlight using their stem. It's like a special kind. Well, that's what the grass does basically, and so it kind of absorbs it into its body, so it can get it.
Oh, I changed it.
Okay. In conclusion, comparing these two adaptations really helped us discover how special some plants are. When we discover their adaptations, we can really find out a lot more about them. The end. Of the world. Just kidding. Okay. Well, actually, first you guys can do the quiz while people are asking questions. Okay, Nate.
How do water lilies get their food?
Well, they get it from they get their nutrients from the CO2 in the air, and sometimes they get it from, like, if dirt is sprinkled along the water, they can get the nutrients from the soil. Picking up?
How does a Venus flytrap in the grass get its water?
Well, they get the water, basically pours into the soil, and then it's absorbed through the roots, and then up the stem, and distributed throughout the plant. Yes?
Aiden, when you talk about how cactuses do photosynthesis, if they don't, do they have leaves, and how do they do that?
Wait, for the sunlight? Well, no, how they turn it into food? Well, basically, they do it the same way as any other plant, except they don't get their air through the leaves. They get their air because the spines, when they fall off sometimes, they puncture little holes that the air can come through even more. But mostly, the air goes through, what's it called? Well, actually, I don't really know about that. Yeah.
Do cactus have stomata?
No.
They don't have stomata.
No. They don't.
How do they take in CO2 then?
Well, wait a second. Wait, some cacti have stomata. But, yeah, the one I was talking about today didn't. So,
And so how do they take in carbon dioxide
so
and give off water?
Yeah, they take in the carbon dioxide and the water from, well, actually, I don't know. Keita.
Adding on to Mr. Spenny's question, wouldn't maybe they don't give off water, that's why they're able to survive in the desert.
Yeah,
So
That's true,
they
that's true.
could last the water longer.
Marco?
Adding on to Keita's question, or Keita's remark, how long do they live? Cactus.
I didn't really inquire into how long they live. I inquired into how they get their energy.
Oh, because I was gonna say,
And
if they didn't live very long.
and keep what they need because it's very dry in the desert and they kind of store some of it for when they need it.
And is like an adaptation that the inside of them are hollow or something? Are they hollow on the inside? So do they?
some
So
are,
they
some
can like store water.
Some are. What I realize is that plants survive mostly using their adaptations. Like every tiny detail of the plant is mostly an adaptation. Like basically every plant has an adaptation of its own. Like even a stomata is an adaptation, or a leaf is an adaptation, or a stem is an adaptation. But mostly, well, they're all considered adaptations, but mostly it's just like the ones that really keenly help it to survive.
Cacti and all the different, what would you say, would it die?
Oh yeah, I forgot to bring that up. That's very important. The adaptations on each plant are built for the habitat that the plant lives in. So like if you put a cactus in water or like a Venus flytrap in the desert, it would probably never survive. Well, it could, but for a really short lifespan, it would probably need its own adaptation. And so each plant adapts to its own habitat, and that's a very key point too. Marco?
This is I don't know. Well, okay, so kind of like we adapted to this land. Can different plants adapt to a different land, or do you think they would still die?
Well, the plant doesn't grow with adaptations that as quick as we and other creatures adapt to their homes. So if you were just going to put like a cactus in water, it probably wouldn't like grow adaptations for water or anything. So I guess they were just kind of built with their adaptations when you plant them, and they start off with their adaptations. It's one of the first things that grows, and then they grow like more and more, so they can have new adaptations to help them survive like more healthy. And all the ones we didn't talk about, but are still out there. Those adaptations are all part of a system, and they have their own smaller systems inside of them. And so we're also, one of our key concepts, well, not key concept, well, we're focusing on the systems of plants and the human body. And also, they're all part of the structure of a plant, and they all have their own unique process. And they interact with the plant and the habitat, and which sustains life for the plant.
Am I right to say that a cactus has structures and processes which interact to sustain its life?
Yes.
The water lily does too,
Mhm.
but they're different
Yes.
given their adaptation to the environment.
Mhm.
The one thing I don't know this is the water lily. Where does it get its minerals from?
If it's in water.
Do they grow into the soil, or do they are completely floating?
I'm not exactly sure.
Would you look that up today when we're?
Yeah, I will.
So there's some unanswered questions. Would you take the opportunity and go dig and share with us at the end of the period?
Okay.